Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Shunyavadi Paschatya Satarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripasindhuvebhacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So as Shruti Kirti said, we can't imagine what fortune it is to be here in Vrindavan on this day. What to speak of to be there 48 years ago, in 1975. Somehow I have no idea what fortune I was able to be here on that day. I remember the first time I came to Vrindavan it was the first really organized Mayapur Vrindavan festival, 1974. They say the first one was 73, but 74 was really organized. We all flew, practically the whole plane was devotees. 74, 75, 76, the whole plane was devotees. And we didn't have that, New York, Delhi hop. We would go from New York to London and pick up the London devotees. Then we go to Paris, and a few Paris devotees got on, French devotees. Then we go to Italy. Then we would go to Athens in Greece. Then we would go to Beirut in Lebanon. The next year, in 1975, that blew up, so we went to Tehran. And then we went to Bombay, and then we went to Calcutta. It was like that. But practically, we had practically reserved the whole plane. So we would have artiks and kirtans 30,000 feet in the air. Devotees were jumping up and down and running. The poor Prabhupada, he didn't see any bad weather on his weather radar. He couldn't understand where the turbulence is coming. All right, everyone, please return to their seats. But we were having kirtans 30,000 feet in here. Anyway, 74, Mayapur Festival, the temple, of course, was supposed to be open on Janmashtami much later, but we got to see the beginning. There was just here was just cement dust and everything. And Prabhupada would lecture for us every night at Fogal Ashram. I remember one of my first experiences of Vrindavan was we were going down to Fogal Ashram. Now nobody even looks at it out of the corner of their eye, but that was the place we all stayed. In fact, it was so organized, everybody stayed at Fogal Ashram. We just stayed there. You registered in Mayapur and you stayed there, and we didn't have to get your own arrangements or anything. They even had buses to take us from the airport. It was all organized. But anyway, one night I was walking, actually Prabhupada gave darshan, and his room wasn't ready, but it was close enough. So Prabhupada gave lecture there in the room. And I was walking back to Fogal Ashram. And I saw these 3 or 4 Brishbazis in front of us. And they were walking real funny, The same thing, if you go to New York, this is non-difference between New York and Vrindavan. You'll see people walking like this. So I went, why are they walking like that? So I came up behind them, and they were going, Radhe, Radhe, Jai, Jai, Sri Radhe. And I said, what is this place? People are intoxicated. Instead of Johnny Walker, they're intoxicated with Radharani's name. So anyway, we again came in 75. And we went to Mayapur first, then we came here to Vrindavan. And we were all staying there at Fogal Ashram, and we come down here. And they had a little, Yagyashala here, a little grass shack with all different types of, water pots, and it was so amazing, all wrapped up like we saw the other day, different colored strings. We were, wow, what is this, And, all the water pots were representing different demigods or different, incarnations or whatever they were. We didn't know. And because Prabhupada didn't want anybody to, because he was very careful about Vrindavan, that none of the local people, we saw Prabhupada they're not CIA. You think the Americans are so fool, they come here, shave their head and dance like madmen? Because they're Vaishnava, Prabhupada said. So every once in a while they would call Prabhupada to come and sit inside, we'd all sit there and they'd do all their different yajna things and chant different mantras and have Prabhupada do different things, And I remember one day, it went on for many days, and I remember one day, just like this year is very strange. Usually, March means there's absolutely not a cloud in the sky. That time I was president of Portland. Portland has 2 seasons, the rainy season and the 4th of July. Sometimes it even rains on the 4th of July. So I got back from Vrindavan. I hadn't seen a cloud for, a whole month that I was in India. And I got back to Portland. We didn't see the sun for a whole month. So one day it was very strange because there was all these clouds in the sky. And they all seemed to be swirling around Krishna Balaram Mandir. I just imagine that all the demigods have come. They're up there in their flower airplanes in the clouds. Because the clouds were just swirling around this courtyard, It was so amazing. Then I believe it was, now my memory's getting old, but I think it was the day before they had the procession, right? His memory's worse, sorry. I think it was the day before we put all the Utsav deities on, special not palanquins, but some sort of arrangement was there. And Prabhupada came, and there was like a, bamboo forest, There were so many sannyasis here, and everybody, you just saw Prabhupada was sitting there, and there was just this bamboo forest in front of him. And we went through the whole town, and everybody was giving garlands to Prabhupada and garlands to the deities. We were so amazed. We went through everywhere and came back to Krishna Balaram Mandir. And then the next day, right where the 24-hour kirtan and a little bit over here too, they had all the deities standing here, just dressed in a piece of white cloth, and they all had blindfolds. And underneath the blindfolds there was wax. All the deities' eyes were closed. We'd never seen a full-on, installation before, And all these big fat Brahmins from Vrindavan, great big bellies and great big monster sikhas. They were all chanting very joyfully, and they had tons and tons of different substances. And then they did the Abhishek right here. I don't remember what they did with all the Charnamrit, but the deities were just here. And it was just like they were having fun with their friends. They had all these clay pots, and they just come, boom, 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 boom. For us, installation was a very serious thing. But they were like, this is just they're installing their friend, boom. They were all having a grand old time. So then, somehow somehow we managed to pick up the deities, and they took them onto the altar. And then Prabhupada was sitting in the back. You may have seen the photos. And Visvambar Bhagachi was there, and Visvambar Goswami from Radharaman Mandir, you see, sitting right next to Prabhupada. He was unconditional friend of Prabhupada. And so many, Ramdas Shastri was here, so many great personalities were here. And the governor was here. And Prabhupada was very happy. The governor came of UP. Something Reddy, I can't remember. Chana Reddy. So then we just heard the talk that Prabhupada gave, He said, we're not CIA, we're Jagai Madai. So then Prabhupada got up and left, and everybody came to the darshan mandap. And we were waiting and waiting and waiting. We had no idea that Prabhupada was actually going to do the first artik, And suddenly, the doors open, billows and billows of incense smoke came pouring out. They blew the conch shells, and then we were waiting. Then, boom, they pulled open the curtains, and there was Prabhupada in front of Krishna Balaram, And everybody surged forward. And I was just taken right off my feet, And this was only the second time in my life that I'd ever been out of my country, And here I'm in this third world country, and there's a big, rush going on. I'm off my feet, And I remember reading reports in third world countries of, people getting trampled and stomped and crushed to death. And I was, so sometimes when you're, in super anxiety, somehow the adrenaline does something, mothers just pick up cars when they're run over, but their child is run over, they pick up the car. Somehow I just boom, 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 just bashed my way down to the courtyard where I could breathe a bit, And then I turned around and looked, and there was Prabhupada offering the arti. And every time Prabhupada turned around, he had this amazing smile. Prabhupada was so happy. He was just so overjoyed. He was opening this Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, And then he would offer the ghee lamp. Every time his smile increased, And then, finally he came, just like in the front of the temple is that famous picture, Prabhupada with the peacock fan. And it's amazing how that photo was taken, because all the sannyasis were there in front of the temple, right in front, in front of the altar railing there, and Tripurari had planted himself straight in front of the deities. And Bisakha Mataji was trying to take photos, And she kept hinting, and even though he was a sannyasi, she would bump him, and he was just fixed, Finally, she just whispered in his ear and said, "You're seeing, but if I can stand there and get a photo, then the whole world will see." And that made sense to Tripurari. He stood out of the way, and Bisakha got that wonderful picture, Prabhupada with the peacock fan. His joy, you look at that picture, his joy knows no seema, there's no limit to his joy. When he smiled when he did that, it was just so amazing, And you see Krishna and Balaram, they look so young. Some lady asked me last night, when did they change the deities? When did they put the big deities? I said, no, that's the same deities. Just the devotees are feeding them and serving them very nicely. They've grown up nice and fat and mature. But that's the same deities that were there 48 years ago. She was shocked. You see that picture? They look so young in that picture. And somehow or other we had this... Mr. Dhanuka let us use that. It wasn't any Dhanuka ashram or anything there, so we all went over there, and we all sat down for a big feast. Most amazing thing. Sri Krishna Balaram Mandir ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Hare Krishna.